we are here in Jerusalem once again with a very special friend, the one and only ambassador to Israel, U.S. ambassador to Israel, our good friend, Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Ambassador Huckabee, always great to see you.
Thank you, Eric.
And hey, we've been talking off camera a little bit about your role here now in the wake of October 7th as an evangelical Christian, of course. Talk about, before we get into current events, everything happening here in the region, talk a bit about your role, the importance for you at this particular moment in history, and the special, even sacred duty you feel in this role.
I was concerned when I was first asked to come here as ambassador because I'm not Jewish. And I was thinking, oh, what if, Jewish people in America or Jewish people here think, hey, you're not even one of us. But here, to my great surprise and delight, the support that I've had from Jewish people, both in the U.S. as well as in Israel, has been unbelievable. And here's what they tell me. Yeah, we're glad you're not Jewish, because if you were, and you took a position that's favorable toward Israel, everybody said, yeah, of course he does. He's Jewish. What is he going to do?
Right.
You don't have to do it. You're not even Jewish. But you take the position as strong as anybody, and we know it comes from your heart. And I think in some ways I've been able to be more effective by being an evangelical believer than if I were Jewish, because the passion with which I speak and the spirit with which I speak doesn't come from, I grew up with a Jewish family and therefore I don't have a choice. I have a choice. My choice is the truth. That's my choice. And I've seen it, I've lived it, and I want to share it.
Yeah, you've been coming to Israel before taking the ambassadorship, coming to Israel for decades since you were a young man, leading tours here, over 100 visits to Israel. Talk about that a bit, and also your college roommate, his role in all of this. That's a great story.
Yeah. Well, my college roommate, when we both graduated high school, 1973, he wanted to take a senior trip. And he told his dad, he said, I want to go to the Middle East. I want to tour around the Middle East. And his dad said, well, son, I'm not going to let you go over there by yourself. But if you take Mike Huckabee with you, I'll pay his way. This was incredible. I'm going to get to go halfway around the world. And I'm going to go basically to make sure my friend doesn't get into trouble. We come over here, and I fall in love with this place. I keep coming back for 52 years. He's never been back. Now, he's promised me he and his wife are going to come. The beautiful thing about this friendship is that we not only were friends from college, maintained our friendship for all of these many years. Our children became very good friends, and they socialized together. Our grandchildren are very good friends. They all go to school together. They socialize together. Now there are 3 generations of us. It all started back with that relationship in 1973 when we became roommates. But before becoming roommates, we came to Israel together.
Amazing. And a Bible that played a crucial part in that relationship as well?
When I was here in July of 1973 in Jerusalem, I purchased a Bible, and I bought it for my then girlfriend and soon-to-be fiancée, and a year later to be my wife, Janet. Yeah. I took it back to her, and a year later, when we were married, she carried it in our wedding. Several years later, when I was sworn in twice as lieutenant governor and 3 times as governor, she held that Bible, and I was sworn in with my hand on that Bible. When our daughter got married, she carried that Bible in her wedding. And then when she was elected governor of Arkansas, she was sworn in with her hand on that Bible. And when I was sworn in to become ambassador, my hand was once again on that very Bible that has now survived a lot of swearing-ins, several weddings, and my coming to Israel, 52 years of history with that book. And I hope that when my granddaughters get married, I have 2 of them, I hope they will carry that Bible in their weddings. And hey, who knows, maybe one of them will be sworn into something. But it's a wonderful reminder that our entire family, all is tied to the Word of God.
Yeah, and to this land.
To this land.
Really, by extension,
not
the land
just
of
the
Israel.
Bible, but a Bible from this very special place.
Incredible. And now you're ambassador. Look, that's the culmination of a lot of things, a lifelong passion for Israel. We hear a lot of criticism now, and even strong. That's probably a light word. I mean, we're in condemnation of Israel and the Jewish people writ large, really, even, Ambassador, among some segments of the right. What have you seen here? Because some of them are saying, look, this is a one-way relationship. Israel benefits from the U.S., but we don't get anything out of this relationship. What have you seen? How is this very much a two-way street that benefits the United States as well?
It's an incredible benefit to the United States. I'll give you a few just tangible examples. If you like your cell phone, thank Israel for it. Yeah. The development of the SIM card is the reason we have cell phones today. Do you like some of the medical procedures that have saved maybe a relative's life? Heart stents, swallowing the little camera that lets the doctor see inside your intestines, developed here. Car navigation systems. Does that help you get around? Thank the Israelis. They were the ones who first invented that. Others have now duplicated it, but they were the ones who created that. Yeah. Comes to things simple as seedless watermelon and cherry tomatoes. That comes from Israel. And then defense systems. We can't even begin to talk about all the ways in which things that protect Americans every single day, that protect our soldiers in battle, yeah, medically and militarily, were first field tested and used by the Israeli Defense Force, and saving the lives of them and now saving the lives of Americans, even in emergency rooms and on ambulances across all of the United States. Yeah. That's just a small touch, but Israel is an amazing, innovative, technologically advanced country that comes up with ideas that then can be exported across the world. And part of that world is the United States, and we benefit greatly from it.
How concerned are you about this trend among very influential podcasters? Yeah. And many are on the right, yeah, who are slamming Israel, and really they have influence, and it's a destructive influence because these are falsehoods that they're spreading. How concerning is that growth?
It's disturbing, very frightening to me, because a lot of it is based on innuendo and lies. For example, if a podcaster says something like, well, everyone knows that Israel was behind Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, that's a rhetorical device. I studied rhetorical theory in college because I was a debater, and that's part of it. And you hear that and you realize this is a tool that is used by propagandists to say everybody knows. Well, everybody doesn't know. But if you're sitting in the audience and they say that, you want to say, yeah, everybody knows that. So you agree to something that you don't know is true. The fact is it isn't true. Next thing you know, it becomes considered to be a fact. It's not a fact. I would say a lot of these people, I don't understand. Where is this coming from? Where is this anti-Jewish attitude coming from? Are they being paid? Somebody's making money off this. And some of them have had a 180-degree turn of their point of view. How did that happen? Well, let me tell you, knowing that they haven't been here, they haven't spent any time in Israel, tells me it's not based on first-hand eyewitness understanding. Right. It's based on what someone told them. The question is, what propagandist told them that, and who's paying them to continue saying it?
Ambassador, you're spending a lot of time in Jerusalem, of course, where the embassy is, thank God, thanks to President Trump.
Yeah.
But you spent some time recently in Gaza with our friend Johnny Moore, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. You and White House advisor Steve Witkoff basically debunking this false narrative we were talking about a minute ago, that Israel is intentionally starving Gazans. It's a genocide. What did you see in Gaza that stands in stark contrast to this growing narrative being pushed in many quarters of the world?
President Trump gave us a simple directive. He said, get humanitarian efforts and get food to people who are hungry, but don't do it in a way that Hamas can steal it and exploit it and loot it. That was the mandate. So we stood up an organization. It's an American organization. Americans run it, called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Most of the people who are involved in it are former Special Forces people. They know what it's like to be in a dangerous place and how to manage it. And they're great. And they deliver food, 135 million meals in a couple of months. It's been amazing how effective they've been. But the process is to serve food in a box that'll feed 5 people for 8 to 10 days, not some massive truck that is easily stolen and then looted and resold to people in the black market, which is what Hamas has been doing. There has been an enormous level of food going into Gaza, more than enough to feed everybody, many times over. But most of it has been stolen and looted by Hamas. They've stolen it right out of the UN trucks. The UN's own numbers are that 92% of the food they truck in is stolen or looted.
And the UN is essentially standing by and watching this all unfold.
Watching it happen. And
while they point a finger at Israel.
Always pointing a finger at Israel. And most of the negative publicity that comes out of Gaza comes from a train of information that starts with the so-called Gaza Health Ministry, which is Hamas. They turn their false information and their phony numbers over to NGOs, who then give it to the UN, who gives it to the BBC, CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the next thing you know, you have a story out there.
And they run with it.
They run with it without any check whether it's true. A couple of examples. New York Times ran a front page picture of a kid clearly emaciated, and they said that he's starving in Gaza and it's Israel's fault. Turns out the kid was not starving, he had a birth defect. So it wasn't starvation, it was a birth defect. In Italy, another story of a kid who had been evacuated out of Gaza. They said he was starving, he died from starvation. When they got his medical records, they found out he wasn't starving. He had leukemia. He died of leukemia. Did he look emaciated? Yes, most leukemia patients do in the final days of life. But they ran with it as if he had been starved to death. It was a lie, a total lie. This happens dozens of times every day, and the press never tries to get to the fact of the story.
Yeah, and occasionally, Ambassador, they will issue a retraction. I know the New York Times issued a retraction, but they'll bury the retraction on page 18A, and no one sees it.
No one sees it,
But the initial lie seems to stick. Getting to the root of it, do you feel like at the end of the day, because this hatred of the Jewish people, number one, less than 1% of the world's population, the Jewish state, the size of the state of New Jersey, and yet the world has an obsession with Israel. Getting to the root of it, is this, at the end of the day, a spiritual battle overall?
I'm so glad you said that, because most people don't understand that what you just said is exactly what's going on. This is not a geopolitical issue. This is a spiritual issue. Here's what I finally came to realize. Anti-Semitism is irrational. It makes no sense. Why would you hate Jewish people? As you say, they're less than 1% of the population. What are they going to do? Take over the world with less than 1%? No. All they want is this little piece of real estate called Israel in the Middle East. And there's only 9.5 million of them even live here. So why this hatred? Why this animosity where people beat up Jews on the streets of the U.S. and Europe and around the world? Then it occurs to me, because what you said, it's a spiritual issue. If you have a belief that there is no God, and the only God is the created, not the creator. So for you, God is the climate. And it's all about climate change, or it's about leftist politics of gender ideology. It's something, but it's not God. Then the people who are known to be God's people in God's place, doing God's purpose, they're an affront and a threat to you. Because if they really are God's people in God's place doing God's purpose, then they're wrong and these people are right. And so let's hate them. Let's destroy them. Let's annihilate them. Because if we get rid of them, then nobody's challenging our view that we're our own God. And people today, most of the world, live like they did in the time of the judges, when the Bible says that everyone did what was right in his own eyes. That's the world today. And so people are championing things that are not true. They're pushing for things that are hurtful and that will destroy a civilization. As Christians, our own faith is predicated, built upon Judaism. So if there wasn't a Jewish people, if there were not 10 commandments, if there was not a progression of the light and law of God in the world, there would be no Christianity. So America and Israel share this fundamental common value system that the individual matters, that we're not who we are because we're a part of a collective. It's not because we're an ethnic Jew or an ethnic Ethiopian. It's because we are creations of God, and he made us individually with individual worth, value, responsibility, and accountability. If you hate that idea, then sure, you're going to hate the Jewish people, because they, more than anyone else on earth, they embody it, they represent it, they're the holders of that candle. Let's blow out the candle.
Hey, we were talking before the break about the trend, obviously, against Israel, the madness, the misinformation. A lot of that's even being fed, Ambassador, by heads of state now. I think of France, Great Britain, Canada, Australia, all declaring that they're going to recognize a Palestinian state probably next month at the UN General Assembly. Can you talk about why that is so destructive and how it emboldens Hamas?
I can give you 3 reasons that it has had a counterproductive impact in the Middle East. The first is when France and these other countries started saying they're going to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. All right, it violates the Oslo Agreement because Israel's supposed to be included in any discussion. They're not. Here's what happened immediately when that took place. I've been working with the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli government to settle a financial just stalemate over money to be transferred from Israel to the Palestinian Authority. It would be helpful to keep their economy going so you don't have a complete collapse, which could lead to something very dangerous and destructive. We were making progress. And then Macron comes out, the president of France, and he says, we're going to recognize a Palestinian state. Hamas celebrates. They say, good, this is great. We're going to get what we wanted. October 7th will be worth it now. And all discussions between the PA and Israel off the table, dead as Elvis, it's done. We're not talking anymore.
And all the work you were putting into it, out the window. That.
Second thing that happened, it ended any negotiations with Hamas for the hostages. They put hostages in danger because giving that sop, if you will, to Hamas, giving it to the Palestinian Authority who was egging it on, absolutely destroyed negotiations that were, we hoped, working towards some resolution.
Yeah.
And the third thing it did, it gave Israel an emboldenment to say, well, if they're going to just declare a Palestinian state, we might as well go ahead and declare sovereignty over parts of Judea and Samaria. So everything that Hamas and the Palestinians did not want is what they're going to end up getting. And everything they wanted, they will never be able to get because they made a unilateral decision that is blowing up in their face. And, you know, I made the statement, if Emmanuel Macron really wants to create a Palestinian state, he's free to do that, but he can do it in his own country of France. And maybe he would use the French Riviera as the new Palestinian state.
Yeah. It seems that much of the West, not in Washington, D.C. now with President Trump back in office, but it seems that much of the West has no desire now to defend Judeo-Christian Western civilization, which began here, by the way, with the Ten Commandments, the teachings of Jesus, needless to say. Do you see a trend in the West towards cultural suicide?
We certainly see it in Europe. Europe is unrecognizable. I mean, the churches are museums at best, and maybe, they only finance themselves by charging admission to come in and see the artwork on the wall. They're not places of worship anymore. You don't hear songs and praise, and they're dead.
And many converted into mosques.
Yeah, they're mausoleums. They're tombs rather than churches. We're seeing it in America where you have people that have lost their minds and they're out there screaming from the river to the sea without even knowing what that means. It means the annihilation of Israel. If you take from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean and you say that's the new Palestine, okay, you only have that by one way. Israel has to disappear. That's right. I have a 5th grade Gaza map in my office at the embassy that came out of a classroom in Gaza. And I got this map because I wanted people to see it when they came to visit me. And I show it to them and I said, show me Israel on this map, because it's supposed to be a map of Israel. Israel does not exist on the map. There is no Israel. It is a Palestinian state, and it is from the river to the sea. There is no Israel. So you have to understand that the motivation for some of these people is not to have 2 states. They want one, and that one state is not Israel.
The 12-day war, resounding victory for Israel and the U.S. against Iran, destroying those nuclear facilities. What's the fallout now of that? Iran weakened? Do you see another round coming? What's your take post 12-day war? And you were here for that war, by the way.
It was an intense 12 days for sure, but I can't imagine being anywhere else. I was here to be able to watch the most flawless military operation in the history of the world. I was also here to be very proud of the United States and most of all of our president, who made a very incredible decision that would say, we're not going to let our friend stand alone. The net result of the decision the president made and that Israel conducted in its war was to give a message to our friends and allies that you can trust America. We won't leave you hanging. Yeah. It also sent a message to our adversaries. Don't mess with us or our allies, because we know how to find you and we know what to do. And that was an important message to all of our friends in the Middle East and around the world, whether they're in Europe and Asia, our Saudis, or Emiratis, whoever. But it said something to the Russians, to the Chinese, and to the North Koreans, and to the Iranians. Don't mess with America. Now, I think Iran will try to reconstitute their nuclear program, which is stupid. Presidents
never
made it very
learn.
clear. No, they never learn. And you know, we have a saying in the South, there's no education in the second kick of a mule. And they're about to get another kick by the mule, and they're not going to learn much more from the second one than they did the first one, and that's really an unfortunate situation for Iran to be in.
Peace through strength is back. About 30 seconds left. Abraham Accords, optimistic. We could see some positive movement there soon.
I have great hope that within the president's term, we're going to see normalization with Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and many other countries. I know that sounds rather bold to make that prediction, but I'm telling you, there's some big things on the horizon.
10 years ago, even 5 years ago, this was unimaginable.
Unimaginable.
It's all happening. Hey, a prophetic moment for sure in this region. Ambassador, you have a front row seat for it. Thank you so much for all you're doing for America and Israel. God bless. Ambassador Mike Huckabee, folks, be sure to follow him, of course, on X, across social media. For Ambassador Mike Huckabee from Jerusalem, God bless, and we'll see you soon.